Fairchild Semiconductor had a monopoly on the future. Then 8 employees walked out with everything. The story everyone tells you is that venture capital and innovation created Silicon Valley. A bunch of brilliant engineers had ideas, got funded, and changed the world. Neat, clean, wrong. The real story starts with a man named William Shockley. He won the Nobel Prize for inventing the transistor in 1947. By 1956, he'd moved to California and founded Shockley Semiconductor. He was the undisputed boss. Here's the thing, he was also catastrophically difficult to work for. Shockley's lab was doing groundbreaking work, but he micromanaged. He demanded loyalty that bordered on cultish. He made hiring and firing decisions based on personality, not merit. Within 2 years, the best talent had had enough. In 1957, 8 engineers decided to leave, not to start their own company yet. They went to their boss's boss, the venture capitalist who'd funded Shockley, and said, essentially, we're leaving. You have 2 choices, watch us go or back us. The capitalist's name was Arthur Rock, and here's the trick, he chose to back them. These 8 men, later called the Traitorous Eight by Shockley, founded Fairchild Semiconductor. They didn't have a product yet. What they had was escape velocity from a toxic culture. And they had Rock, who understood something Shockley never did, that people were the actual asset. Fairchild's financials tell the real story. The company started with minimal capital, around $1.5 million. Within 5 years, they'd captured 80% of the semiconductor market. By 1965, they were the dominant chip maker in America. The money wasn't in being first. It was in being stable, trustworthy, and not insane. But here's where the conventional story cracks. Everyone credits Fairchild with inventing the integrated circuit. They didn't. 2 other engineers, one at Texas Instruments, one at another lab, developed it independently around the same time. Fairchild's advantage wasn't innovation, it was execution and reliability. The military wanted chips they could trust. NASA wanted chips that wouldn't fail in space. Fairchild hired quality control people, they built redundancy into manufacturing, they documented everything. While competitors chased headlines, Fairchild chased contracts worth real money, aerospace, defense, missiles. By 1965, Fairchild's revenue had hit $130 million annually. Profit margins were fat because they owned the supply chain and the customer relationships. And here's the trick. They'd created something Shockley never could have built, a culture where ambitious engineers wanted to stay and build something together. Now the real dismantling. Fairchild didn't build Silicon Valley, they built asterisk themselves asterisk, but something else happened that mattered more. Those 8 engineers proved that you could leave a dominant company and win. That bet worked. It changed how people thought about loyalty and risk. Fairchild's own employees later left to start Intel, AMD, and National Semiconductor. Some of those asterisk companies' employees founded others. It became a cascade. The real product wasn't the chip. It was the template. If you can recruit the right people and treat them with respect, you can disrupt any market. The money flowed to whoever could execute that template best. Shockley had the Nobel Prize and the first mover advantage. He lost because he treated people like resources instead of partners. Fairchild won because Arthur Rock understood that in knowledge work, the talent asterisk is asterisk the business. This changed everything. It meant that the next generation of tech companies, the ones that would actually define the valley, had to compete on culture, not just technology. They had to keep people from leaving. They had to build something worth staying for. The gold rush wasn't about gold. It was about people realizing they had leverage. And venture capitalists realizing that backing the right people mattered more than backing the right technology. That's the lesson Shockley never learned and Fairchild proved over and over again. 20 years later, the chip market had fragmented across hundreds of companies. Fairchild's dominance had eroded, partly because their own people left to start competitors, partly because the market matured. But they'd already won the only game that mattered. They'd written the playbook for how Silicon Valley would actually function. The real story of the Traitorous Eight isn't about 8 brilliant engineers outsmarting one genius. It's about 8 normal engineers recognizing that working for a tyrant, no matter how brilliant, destroys value. And one investor smart enough to bet on that insight. Every major tech company since then has internalized this lesson, whether they admit it or not. Stock options, campus perks, culture, these aren't nice-to-haves. They're how you keep people from leaving. They're how you avoid becoming Shockley. The cash follows the talent, not the other way around. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. If you want to understand how the companies that built the modern economy actually made their money, where the cash went, why it went there, and what got left behind, subscribe. There's a new breakdown every week. Subscribe, there's a new breakdown of how the money actually moved every week. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.